One thing that's very important to get real specific on is listing out and understanding your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Go back and review that lesson on KSA if you need to. But really what I'm looking to have you do is brainstorm and make a long list without much pause. Just list out. And maybe in different columns, like this is my knowledges, this is my knowledge, this is my skills, and this is my my abilities, my innate talents and traits. And make that long list and just pause the video if you want to do it right now, and just list out. And from that, you're going to be zeroing in on a key few. And you can have others do that, do the same for you. That is optional. It can give you a different perspective. If you ask somebody that you really trust and tell them what you're looking to do, and you're on a job search and you're really trying to understand these and help them define for them, coach them through what you mean by KSA. One thing to be cautious of if you're having others do it is sometimes they get off track. They don't mean to, it's just human nature, by the way, where instead of really focusing on what your knowledge, skills, and abilities, they'll tell you what you're not good at, right? And it's like, I'm not interested in what I'm not good at. I'm interested in what I am good at, or who I am from a knowledge and ability standpoint, and then skill-wise, what am I particularly good at, or I have these particular skills. So just be wary of that. That can be not only kind of a downer, but it's off track. Because when you're building things like your resume, your LinkedIn profile, when you're interviewing, you're going to talk about your knowledge, skills, and abilities. You're not going to talk about or dwell on your weaknesses or things that you're not good at. So zero in on those key few, because those will be those building blocks, and think about those measurable results and those successes you've had in the past, particularly if they're measurable, will really, like I hit this quota or I got this project done by, ahead of time, whatever. Think about those things as they kind of flow from those knowledge, skills, and abilities as you build that list. Another thing, too, that's beyond knowledge, skills, and abilities, though it's very related, is strengths, which is focusing on your strengths, and in a great deal focusing on your strengths. People who use their strengths every day are happier. The studies show this over and over again, that if you're trying to do something where you're always trying to fix your weaknesses, or your job entails you always half of the time you're working on something that you just don't like to do as a weakness, obviously you're not going to be happy. But if you think about some of the things that you like to do and where you're really strong or good at, well, then you're going to be really enjoying what you do. I enjoy teaching people. I enjoy helping people succeed, for example. So you can hopefully see I'm a little enthusiastic. I talk a little fast, I don't know, but I'm enthusiastic about that because I'm using some of that strengths. And there's some formalized ways that you can do that to help identify your strengths. And one that you may have done or might be familiar with is called Strength Finder. It's a book by Tom Rath. Strength Finder 2.0 might be on 3.0 or 8.0 by now, I don't know. And he used to work with the Gallup organization, the big survey type folks, and kind of comes out of that. And really it's a tool where it's a short book, and then there's an online tool that you can use that you answer questions, tell you your top 5 strengths in kind of this broader nebulous way, but it kind of is these building blocks. And here's a quote from Tom there, that if you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you'll never be great at anything. And that's so true. I like to have a lot of knowledge, and I'm interested in many, many things, but I know the things that I'm really focused on, I can be very, very good at. Best in the world in some areas, actually, or one of the best in the world. Let's be a little more humble, Steve. And you have that too. There are some things that you do that you're that great at. You might not think that you're one of the best in your company or the best in the world, but you really have those things, especially as you develop those strengths. And the Strength Finder will help you identify those strengths. Let's look at an example of that. I'll share my strengths. Let me share you what mine are so you get a feel for what that might look like, because it might look a little different. And before we do that, just an extra quote from Peter Drucker here. If you've gone through management or MBA program or business school, Peter Drucker, classic writings, all that stuff. Father of management, some people might say. And he wrote, a person can perform only from strength. One cannot build performance on weakness, let alone on something one cannot do at all. How true is that? I don't know how to run a nuclear power plant. I have no interest in that. I have no strengths that might relate to that. So, boy, that would end a disaster, wouldn't it? But I am good at other things. And let's look at those 5 strengths that I have from the Strength Finder profile. So my strengths are ideation, strategic, maximizer, competitive, and input. And I've followed those for really decades, I think, a couple decades now, 20 years I've known those, and I do apply them. I do think about them very frequently. And I know in the moment when I'm using those strengths, I'm very in the moment, happy, time seems to fly by. So let's look at these. So what do I mean? Ideation, and yours will be different. You'll have your own top 5 if you happen to go through the Strength Finder thing, which I really encourage you to do. I get no royalties or anything from that. It's just very helpful. Ideation means I like ideas. I like to sit and talk with people or come up on my own, ideas. I'll sit outside and I'll just have a notepad and I'll be writing all sorts of ideas. Ideas about a new course, ideas about new products or services, ideas for companies, ideas about all sorts of things. So I'm kind of an idea guy, right? So I love ideas. Some people are like operationally oriented and they're all about execution, and that's great. I'm all about ideas. And when I'm doing idea stuff, I love it. I'm great. Strategic is like strategy, right? Making a plan. So they kind of go together. I come up with an idea and I make a plan of how to implement that idea. So I have a nice synergy there, right? So ideation, strategic planning, maximizer is taking things that are good and making them great. How can I help maybe a team member or employee, maybe somebody who reports to me? How can I help that person who might be really good and give them the training and development, encouragement, support, whatever it is to help them become great? So maximizer is taking things that are good, making them great. Competitive is kind of what it sounds. I'm kind of a competitive guy. Like I used to play sports and things in school. When I was younger, when I was competitive sports, when I was if I play like chess or cards or whatever, I try to win. I'm competitive. I'm just wired that way. Not crazy competitive, like, you'd hate to be around me, but whether it's in my personal life or in business, I want to win. And I want my team to win. I might want a company to win. So I'm very competitive that way. And then input is this broad range of, I like, where you get lots of information from lots of different sources on lots of different topics. So I read a lot of books, mostly nonfiction books, some fiction, but mostly nonfiction, on a wide variety of subjects. And I could talk to anybody about almost anything because I'm just curious that way. I'm just like, I want that input. I'm like, oh, you are in this particular type of position. Tell me about that. I'm really interested in that. Even though I have no idea about it, and probably afterwards may not even care too much after, but that's my strength. I'm able to process lots of information and I love getting that information. So that's me. That's 5 strengths. Once again, the strengths are yours will be different. You might be high in analytical or empathy or whatever. They have these different categories and then you kind of build from those categories. And that's the key thing to take away from this is to really spend the time, list out and understand your knowledge, skills, and abilities, and understand your strengths, whether you're using the Strength Finder or you're just writing it out yourself, thinking about, yeah, I'm good at this, or I'm naturally good at this. This comes easy to me. Those are keys that might be a strength for you. People always say this about me, that I'm really good at whatever it is for you, and that might lead to a strength. So think about what are your strengths, because strengths are going to make you be happier in your job when you get to your new job, but also strengths are going to help you through that whole process. You're going to emphasize those strengths through the process, particularly in an interview. You might get asked questions like, what's your greatest strengths? Well, you can see for me, I have lots of easy answers from that. And then you mitigate your weaknesses. That whole concept of, oh, you got to fix your weaknesses. It's not true. You've heard those quotes about how to focus on your strengths, but there are some weaknesses you just have to mitigate or at least get up to a certain level. But if you spend all your, so you can at least do something, at a certain level. Maybe it's, let's say, public speaking is just, you're just never going to be comfortable at. You might need to get to a certain level to get by, but it's not something you'd probably want to do on a daily basis if you hate public speaking or things that are related to that extroversion or whatever it might be. There's no right or wrong, by the way, in the strengths. It's about who you are and to focus on your strengths and to do what you do and be able to communicate that through the job search, the job interview process to get to the end where you can get an offer and then use your strength of like choosing.